With so many games on the PSP, it's hard to pick through the rubbish to find that hidden gem. Here's a list of 7 underrated or relatively obscure PSP games I think are worth playing. This is the 3rd video I've made on this topic, so if you haven't already, I'd recommend checking out my previous videos. Without any further ado, Obscure: The Aftermath. A sequel to the 2004 game Obscure, Obscure: The Aftermath is an old school style survivor horror game, complete with fixed camera angles, puzzle solving, and cheesy voice acting.
I'm hurt and they've killed my boyfriend. It will soon be your turn.
The lighting and sound design aid in creating this eerie atmosphere, and there's a constant sense of foreboding as though there's something waiting around the corner. The horror is surprisingly restrained with few jump scares, instead opting to build tension through its haunting atmosphere and creepy location and enemy designs. This is a very impressive and successful horror game on the PSP that is worth checking out for fans of survival horror. Power Pro: Success Legends. Calling this an obscure game is kind of contentious, as the Power Pro series is phenomenally successful in Japan and has many iterations. As a whole, the series has outsold the likes of the Castlevania franchise, Far Cry, Total War, Metroid, and Burnout. But despite this, there have only been a couple of attempts to localize entries, and they found little success. Power Pros has never been successful in the West, and that's a real shame as the series has incredibly refined arcade-style gameplay and a less serious tone compared to other sports titles. Unfortunately, Success Legends is not one of the localized entries in the series, so menu navigation might require the aid of an online guide. But it's worth persevering through, as this is a quality introduction to the prolific Power Pro series. Archer Maclean's Mercury. This is the table tilting game sort of in the same vein as Super Monkey Ball. Though it's important to note that while Super Monkey Ball is more so about precision movement, Mercury is more of a puzzle game. The fact that you're Mercury isn't just a superficial difference from the traditional Marble Madness formula, but it adds more variety and puzzle solving to the gameplay. This change in focus aids in distinguishing this from other similar titles. Archer Maclean's Mercury isn't just a Super Monkey Ball clone, but through a change of pace and clever level design, it crafts its own identity. Tony Hawk's Project 8. This came out a year following Tony Hawk's Underground 2 remix, and as such is a very similar game, in a lot of ways besides just the gameplay engine. This is still based on the same framework of the PS2 engine, so this plays like classic era Tony Hawk. And the content offered in this game is also very similar to the Underground series. You have a story mode and a classic mode. Classic mode is just a collection of retro Tony Hawk maps. Due to the Project 8 name, people associate this with the PS3 and Xbox 360 game that greatly changed the style of the Tony Hawk series, but Project 8 is more of a continuation of the classic Tony Hawk style. Project 8 for the PSP will always be overshadowed by Underground 2 Remix, which is fair as Remix is the better game, but fans of that game should try Project 8 as it's effectively just more of the same. Kingdom of Paradise. Kingdom of Paradise is an action RPG with an emphasis on swordplay, one-on-one duels, and Chinese mythology. Though from the outside this looks like a budget title, Kingdom of Paradise offers a lot of depth in its combat. There's a fluidity to the combos and magical attacks that produce an incredibly engaging combat system. The customization available to you, coupled with the various weaknesses of enemies, encourages the player to constantly experiment with their moves and attack style. This is all wrapped up in a game that feels like a traditional action story, with vibrant colour design and beautiful scenery in the background. It looks like a picture book or 1980s anime. There are a lot of very good action RPG games
on the PSP,
and the unique approach to story and gameplay aid in distinguishing Kingdom of Paradise from the crowd. Ford Racing Off-Road. As far as licensed games go, the Ford Racing franchise was surprisingly decent for the time. Off-Road is the final entry in the series, and, as the title suggests, the game has an emphasis on four-wheel off-road racing. That's kind of the most unique aspect of the game, whereas in other off-road racing games on the PSP like MotorStorm Arctic Edge or Flat Out Head-On, wherein the intended track is very clearly marked, and the course still feels like a traditional racetrack. The width of the tracks in Ford Racing Off-Road is so wide and all of the course feels like the jagged out of bounds you're not meant to be driving on. Does this game compare to those two in terms of gameplay or visuals? Not even close, but it's admirable to see the developers attempt an authentic off-road driving experience. Hammerin Hero. Hammerin Hero is so widely discussed as a PSP hidden gem that it's practically a mainstream game at this point. That's just a testament to the community's collective love of this game. Hammerin Hero is a real cult classic amongst PSP fans. Though the gameplay is rather basic with just the hammer as a weapon, the game really comes alive in its incredibly inspired level designs. You'll be visiting varied and unique locations, realised through a really charming 2.5D art style. The colour design is particularly warm and inviting, and there's always some kind of personality or comedy naturally integrated into the environments. It's just a world you keep wanting to explore, and there's something new around every corner. Of all the games listed, this is the most popular, and that's for good reason. Hammerin Hero is a really outstanding game that demonstrates how good level design can be more than just well-placed platforms. Thank you for watching. As stated at the start, I've produced 2 other videos on Hidden Gems in the PSP. If you like this video, consider leaving a like to show your support. Have a nice day.